All right, I'm going to review my options trades this morning. Didn't really do too much, but it was a very good morning. This is where we were left off as far as the pre-market goes, or this is what I had when I came to the market initially this morning. This is a 15-minute chart. Some noticeable things you can see is I was really hoping it was a perfect double top, but it wasn't. ES just confirmed a bearish liquidity sweep against this pivot, but it looks like it swept it by only like one tick. Okay, so it only barely swept that pivot, which is pretty dang close to a perfect double top. NQ missed this one right here. It's going to let me do it. But it did sweep this one. So my pre-market sentiment was I'm bullish. You know, first off, if you look at the 15-minute candles, ever since these bearish sweeps, especially on ES, you see massive buying wicks. If barely even just 50% of this pullback invalidates, I'm going to be bullish, not just for ES pre-market high, but I'm going to be bullish for the pivot that NQ missed, which is 19,789. So that's my pre-market analysis. And first candle on market open was this. Wasn't what I needed. Next candle on market open was this. I filled SPX calls here. ES was stronger than NQ. Very bullish. I'm looking for pre-market high. Pretty much ran close to a 1.0 risk to award. And this was my trade. So we blew right through that pivot. And I'm like, well, NQ is weaker than ES, which is why I entered SPX calls. But I also, when it came up here, it confirmed my bullish sentiment for the NASDAQ to get to 789. That's pretty much my main pre-market analysis. PT is 789 on NQ. So I actually also I trimmed up these SPX calls when it cleared this PT, and I added key QQ calls here for this pivot. And I left a little over a third of my SPX position left because I think it was actually half. I left half of it because, I'm still very bullish. We blow right through it. It is glorious. I end up trimming most and taking, only had small runner positions left. As far as the core positions, I got 67% on SPX and then roughly 40% on QQQ calls. Now the calls weren't moving. The premiums for calls weren't very bullish until a bit later on. But my QQQ runners end up getting to 88%, and my SPX runners got to 122%. I did not sell at that level though. My next major pivot was here, 56.75 on ES. Only had tiny runners left. And I did tell you guys in my options channel that I am fully expecting a pullback before we get to this level. But just in case we get there, I'm leaving a single SPX contract left and a couple QQQ calls, and that's pretty much it. Got close. We pulled back. You're going to notice a major divergence in strength here. The NASDAQ flipped extremely weak. ES was extremely strong. It actually looked pretty good to get to this level, but I was still in my single runner. I didn't add anything. But we pulled back, just as predicted. Now, NQ was actually technically bearish now. By this candle, I was out my runners. So very, very, very bright green morning. Not a single person that even glanced at my channel this morning should be read this morning. Had one sentiment before market open, which is up to 789. It only went up from market open past 789. You would have had to be a terrible trader or made some terrible mistakes to not be bright green from that move. But anyways, so we start pulling back. I'm like, all right, I'm technically supposed to be bearish on NQ for new low of day, but I'm not willing to risk my gains on that. Now, if SPX swept that pivot, I would be willing to take QQQ puts to new low of day on NQ, but I decided to wait. If ES invalidates a majority of this drop, I'll take small SPX calls small, like half size to this pivot here. I actually filled a little bit more than half size, but we did end up bouncing. Got a nice reversal candle there, and right at the beginning of the next candle, I filled my calls here. Now, the premiums were super bullish at the start of this bounce, but then they kind of went very bearish. I filled SPX calls, the 57.10. No, that was the puts. That was way. I filled the. Did I accidentally alert puts? Yeah, I accidentally said puts on that alert. It was calls. All you guys know that. So, anyways, I filled the 57.10 calls at 2.9. Got a pretty decent fill. Immediately, I was up. They were at like 3.3, and then they got to 3.4. However, we bearishly swept high of day, and the call premiums got smoked from there. So this ended up. Well, I said, actually, I didn't say anything here. I stopped out on this candle. Call premiums was so bearish, especially after the sweep. They were extremely bearish. All you guys that trade options should know how to read the premiums of your options. It gives you great insight into what the sentiment of the market is. All you guys should be watching the options chart as well when you're trading options. At least glance at it. So I was saying that the call premiums were super bearish, and it did end up dumping. I did end up stopping out for a loss. I think I stopped out at like, I don't actually know. I think I stopped out at like 2.0 flat, or I think it was 1.9. So it took like a 30-ish, 35% loss on that. Wasn't full size, which was nice, but I took around a 35% loss. I said I'll be back in if we come back up for one more attempt. Well, we ended up coming back up, but we put in a perfect double bottom on ES. I'm like, I gave back a little bit of my gains from that loss, but I'm willing to give it one more attempt. However, I filled pretty much almost all the way up this candle. I filled right here. Looked pretty good. I did say, I hope it gets there, and I think it has a decent chance to, but I hope it doesn't pull back right before that pivot and try to put in an inverse head and shoulders, because normally an inverse head and shoulders is bullish, but in this case, I'm not bullish at it at all. I said in my channel, at best, it's going to be a 50-50 chance because we have a perfect double bottom there. However, I told you guys at 56.60 and lower, it is a super, super easy put scalp. So I had full plans. If this trade got to my stop loss, I would sell and immediately get into puts. And I'll be heavy into puts because that is a very easy trade, very high probability. Well, I was green, but the call premiums were awful again. They were terrible. And sure enough, we ended up putting in the inverse head and shoulders I was not confident in. And even though I was technically green for most of this, price action was above where I entered, the puts were. The puts were pretty bearish. So I end up stopping out, not on this candle, but on the next candle. We did put in a huge buying wick there. I didn't even get a chance to stop out. But if the next candle opened and closed red, I don't care that it didn't get all the way down to my stop loss. I stopped out. So I took roughly I filled that same trade a strike sooner at 2.95. And I took like another 35-ish% loss on that. This trade I was actually normal sizing though. So I was down about 1.5 red trades. However, right when I stopped out, I filled heavier on QQQ puts. I was an entire position. I think like 1.2x leverage, a little bit more than my normal size. And then I also filled some SPX as well, roughly half a position. So I was like 1.7, 1.8x leverage for this trade. And of course it hit flawlessly, and I sold right when it hit. It was pretty easy to sell too because you got a buying wick and a volume spike. I didn't even wait for those things to happen though. I just sold it. So I made back everything I lost on those calls. So it's pretty good. I made roughly double the loss of that last trade. So I think I'm at high of day P&L wise. I'm pretty much right where I was high of day P&L wise. I didn't really get more green on the day than I was after the just first two call trades. So it would have been better to leave then, but it's fine. So that was really nice. I filled the 476 QQQ puts. Those one did really well. I filled those at roughly 50 cents, and when they hit PT, it was a 50% win. They got to 72 cents when I sold, and I think they got to a high of 77 cents. So a little over 50% there. The SPX puts were much crappier, which was expected because the premiums it was just so choppy this morning, which is why I was so much lighter in the SPX puts. But I ended up filling those SPX puts at roughly 2.4, which was not a good fill, and I sold at 3.2-ish. They got to 3.35, so pretty decent sell there. And I don't even know what percent that is. It was like a 35-ish% win. So that's how I ended today. Now moving forward though, I'm not trading at the moment. I don't trade my futures until 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We are chopping down. This is a huge leg here. So this bull flag, in the context of just this morning, this flag here is way too big for this run. But in the context of everything overnight, it's not. And in fact, it looks like it's holding the 38.2% fib very nicely. Let's see. Called it flawlessly. Just eyeballed it. My eyeballs are so good. Yep. Just held the 38.2%. So moving forward today, I'm still leaning bullish for ES to get to 56.75. Don't know for sure if it's going to happen or not. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that some way, somehow, it dumps again. And then by the time I trade futures, over here, I'm able to fill on longs and play it. That would be awesome for me, but I don't think I'm going to be that lucky. Also, ES is still a lot stronger than the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ is sweeping some things, so keep that on watch. If it gets back up to here, I think it's a pretty damn good long trade to 56.75. And maybe you can go for the supply break as well, but there's not a super major pivot at the top of the supply break, so it's not super worth going for. It's an okay pivot. Since it was during market open, I would probably go for it, to be honest. It depends. If you enter and there's a lot of momentum, then I'd extend the PT out for 56.82. But we'll have to see. But all right, with that being said, that is the complete review of this morning's options trades. Very, very, very easy morning. Price action ES didn't want to get that pivot, but because that perfect double bottom, it didn't really matter. I scalped those puts. And I even told you guys, way before those puts even happened, I told you guys, by the way, at ES at or below 56.60, it is an easy put scalp to 56.53 or lower. So very easy day. Felt like I was in kindergarten. Would the same concept apply to MNQ? JBS, that's a good question. I trade MNQ when I trade futures. But I do my analysis on the NQ chart. So whenever I have a major pivot that I'm going to on NQ, I will trade to that same level on MNQ. Even if it's not quite, maybe it's a little bit above the MNQ pivot, maybe it's a little bit below. As far as my main, PTs, it has to be NASDAQ. The stop losses, it doesn't really matter. When a majority of the move is invalidated, I stop out regardless. But when it comes to PTs, that's the biggest thing. Sometimes there'll be discrepancies. The ES pivot here may be 56.75, but the MES one may be 56.74.50 or something. I always go to the ES and NQ. So I try to keep my analysis on these charts. There's so much more volume, and that's where the analysis is at. It's more reliable. Yes, I do, JBS. Yep. For the future strategy that I'm trading with right now with the funded accounts, one NQ mini is too large. It doesn't have to be, on a handful of my accounts, there's 10K in equity on them. Like they have 10K till drawdown on the 50K accounts, but because I'm still kind of testing and I don't know how much longer the strategy is going to be good for, I'm working on a bunch of things with it. I'm just keeping it reasonable size because each day, if I trade one mini NQ and two minis ES, each day would be plus or minus $1,500 to $3,000, and that's a bit too much while I'm still testing. So, yeah, the fees get you, but would you rather pay a lot more in fees or blow your account? That's the way I look at it. But if you're day trading like I was, you can. But with how much the market is moving too much for minis, like most people in the server, including me, even if you're just scalping the first hour or the second hour, um, two ES minis and one NQ mini, my average loss would be like $300 to $400. Now, if you're trading one NQ mini, your average loss is at least $500 to $700, and if it's less than $500, your stop losses are way too close, and I guarantee you're getting swept. You're getting absolutely bullied by the market, and all your stop losses are getting swept. And you can type in chat if that's happening to you. Um, the market's moving too much to trade that size right now, especially for those accounts. Now, if you're set on trading minis, that's fine. Bump your accounts to like the 150Ks. How do you check the options chart? Great question, Colt. So it depends on the broker. For Thinkorswim, you can pull up the options contract. Keep in mind, when I trade options, I never look at the options chain. All I do is come to the new day and input the date, and you type this. So for example, this is the SPX contract. You do period SPXW and then the date 250317 calls 5705. So I have four options chart on my Thinkorswim. At the bottom, SPX calls and puts, QQQ calls and puts. That's what I trade. And if I want to change strikes, all I do is change the strike so I get back within the strike price that I usually trade. I try to keep my prices between $2.50 to $3 for my SPX contracts, and for my QQQ contracts, anywhere above 50 cents to like 75 cents is kind of my sweet spot. Um, so I just keep my contracts within that range. And my active trader is the exact same thing, except I just have it linked to my options charts. But all right, and yeah, Dev, I'll deal with that later. I've been so busy, I could not care less about that. I assume you're talking about that one guy that keeps bugging me. But all right, I will wrap this up. I'm gonna post this on YouTube. I'll let you guys know when it's posted. And by the way, for premium people, be here Thursday because I'm going to release the rest of what I've got as far as the new future strategy. So if you're premium, do not miss it. I am not recording it. I will send out announcements, but I am not recording it. It's too valuable. Not recording it. Too much of a liability. So be here for that. And I'll get the documentation for probably going to do October, September, and August. Maybe July as well. We'll review that on Thursday. What time Thursday? 30 minutes after market close. Yep. Can non-premium be here as well as Thursday? No. No. I don't. I do a lot for free, but I'm not a charity. The future strategy stuff is way too valuable. I have by the time Thursday comes around, I'm gonna have at least 45 to 50 hours just in back testing. So no, I'm not. That's way too much of a risk to have that stolen. But JBS, if you use your premium trial, that works too. It's a free 3-day trial. But all right, anyways, I will see you guys soon. We do have the back testing lesson today, 30 minutes after market close. And for you mentorship people, that is going to be posted in the week 3 curriculum. So be there for that. Everyone's got to start back testing your edges. And that lesson is going to be an important lesson. So make sure you're there. But that will be recorded. So if you can't be there, it's not going to be a big deal. It's going to be posted the same day. But all right, I'll see you guys later. Good luck if you guys continue to trade. I'll keep you guys updated on how the futures trading goes. And yeah, I've been hard at work. Like most of my free time has just been back testing, edge development, and then my own psych stuff, reading in the curriculum and whatnot. So the server's been a little bit more quiet lately. That is on purpose. The stuff that I'm doing right now is a massive investment into your guys' futures as well as mine too. I've made a ton of money off this back testing stuff so far, and yeah, it's just a big investment. So be patient; it's gonna be worth it. But all right, I'll see you guys later. Good luck if you guys are trading, and reach out if you guys need anything. I'll be responsive in DMs in probably an hour from now. But all right, I'll see you guys later. Nice job journaling, TCG.